My tipsiness is just fading. I went to dinner with a lot of my bosses, who happen to know each other, and I drank, but I haven't drank in so long. I was so tipsy, and I just was so tired when I got home. But anyways, today I almost didn't do it, but I got a wave of inspiration. I have been reading a lot of really important texts in the last few days about acetylcholine and stress. And I'll probably end up reading more tonight, but I also want to add some of the things that I learned because I was sitting with a lot of information like the last week or so, particularly the last 2 days at the opera, which should be my last video on this playlist. I don't know, I was just processing. I was like processing a lot of the things that I read, and yeah, so you can probably hear it, I'm really exhausted, but I just want to do a little bit. Um, I also I've been really motivated to jump back in because my laptop was having issues, so I had to get it repaired. My laptop, I got it replaced, the screen replaced at a really cheap shop, and the screen that they gave me was totally horrible, and so I had to go back and they changed it for free. Now my iPad is fine. So I had a few days that I was not able to work on this project, and oh my god, I got so depressed so fast, and I just felt like life was just horribly pointless, and I just felt so awful and sad. And I was like, why on earth is this happening? And I was like, oh, yeah, because usually I'm working on this project every day, and it just gives me the sense of momentum and the sense of purpose. Like I'm doing something, and it's like I don't know, I feel like I'm channeling a lot of my emotions into it and a lot of my feelings into it. And without it, I just started to feel really weird. So I was the relief that I felt getting my laptop back and getting my iPad back on the same day. I was like, thank you, Lord, thank you for giving this back to me because it's like I need it. I need to work on it every day. I need to read something for it every day and do something for it every day. If not, I just feel really off. And like life has no meaning and purpose, which is so dramatic, but just that's just how I've been feeling. So, anyways, we're gonna jump back in, and I'm gonna add like the text that I've read. And what I really want to do today is similar to one of the last videos that I did where I was kind of reviewing some terminology. I'm gonna do that for the acetylcholine text that I've been reading because I've been reading some really important things right now that I think are gonna be crucial. Yeah, here we are, untitled document. This one is gonna be just acetylcholine. You can see here, I almost the O key. The O key is something I have not gotten fixed yet. You can see here that I was going to add all of this information into this document, but I thought it was kind of nice to have this be kind of a vocab list. So I'm gonna add some things to here. Also today, while I was out nannying, I will get so inspired when I'm out nannying because even though I'm really, honestly, really love my nanny jobs, I love the kids I nanny, and I love spending time with kids so much. Like it makes me really happy. Sometimes I think I'm so mentally unengaged in a lot of ways. I feel like I'm someone who's always off thinking about something really like academic, or I'm just usually so deep in like intense thought about my life that it's been on like a really big challenge to be at my nanny job sometimes. And you have to be at such a different thought level to play with kids. Like you have to be really simple mentally. I don't know how to put it, but it can be a little bit I think it's ironically, it can be really mentally draining and exhausting for me sometimes because I need to like tone everything in here like significantly down by like a lot. And sometimes that can just be really challenging for me. Like I struggle like every once in a while I just really catch myself struggling to focus because I'm like I need to like take everything in here like really lower it down for a little kid level. I think I do so sometimes my brain is really actually deep in thinking while I'm at my nanny jobs because I'm kind of like intensely bored, even though sometimes I'm extremely not bored and I'm really enjoying my time. But sometimes I'm intensely bored because I want to be doing something really mentally engaging and I'm not doing, you know what I mean? Like I'm doing something really simple. And I've written a lot of this, like my earliest pieces of this, most of it was not written, I would say, but I would say once it started to get into the actual project with the neural network, etc., a lot of it I ended up writing or thinking about or etc. at my nanny jobs because I'm just sort of Like I have like scraps of paper where I'm like, I wrote this down, I wrote that down, because I think I'm like desperate to think of something more like mentally engaging sometimes. And so that is no diss to the kids that I nanny. They're so fun. Actually, like genuinely, I really enjoy playing with them. And I'm be really sad when I'm not working my nanny jobs by like a lot, but it can be really ironically tiring for me. But I think if you're like a smart person working a menial, like a job where you're just doing menial tasks, I think you probably get me right. It's like I just want to work on something really like deeply engaging. And it's like I'm like, shelving cans or something. Anyways, okay, I'm gonna show you guys what I was actually talking about or thinking about in my nanny job today, which was what I thought the process for medicating dissociative disorders would look like if a medication were to come about relying on these principles that I'm about to lay out from my text. But I'm gonna like write it all out. I might not be the best talker today because I'm seriously really exhausted, but yeah. Okay, let me show you what I was thinking. So, what I imagined this medication as, or what this treatment would look like, based on my experience, based on the fact that I know, also be from the research that I've done about dissociative disorders, dissociative identity disorders, things like that, it can be extremely intense to face the emotions or face the memories once they start to appear. And I've read plenty of text where people talk about how healing from dissociative identity disorder or etc. It can be really hard because, for example, you're getting much better, then all of a sudden you're getting much, much worse because you're dealing with the feelings, etc. So I thought that if we were able to make a medication that would basically fix the issue that I am pointing out, which is that the memory is not encoding because of the sharp wave ripples. This is going to make a lot more sense once I show you everything that I've learned so far about the acetylcholine. Okay. Because it is actually starting to get to that point for me where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm really seeing the connection here. Basically, because it's that intense, I think that the treatment would have to be something along the lines of like EMDR treatments, or even like the kind of psychedelic treatments that people can do for PTSD. When you do those treatments, normally if you take, for example, an antidepressant, you're usually routinely taking your antidepressant, and you don't necessarily have to be like delving into everything happening with the antidepressant because the issue is just fixed, like it's just really sort of fixing the symptoms. And there's not, even though you should continue to go to therapy and talk to your therapist, it really should just make you feel better. But the thing about something like the psychedelic treatments, EMDR, is that sometimes because you're dealing with things that are really difficult, it's not always even repressed memory. Sometimes people are just dealing with really intense trauma. It can make you feel worse. So it's not even only dissociative disorders and things that have that effect. So that's why I think it would be a short process. Usually those therapies are short, like an intensive. Like I actually looked up because I would really like to do EMDR. I just haven't had the funds yet, but I want to in the future. It's been like on the list. But those medications, you usually go to therapy, they assess you to make sure that you'd sort of be good for that kind of therapy, and then you do like a burst of it. And then you see how you feel, and then maybe later you can like do more, but it's not something that you just do the same way you do talk therapy. It's from the treatment options that I saw, it tends to be like that, right? Because you don't want to be constantly delving into really heavy things. And the cool thing about having a focused treatment like that is that you can delve into some of the heavier parts of yourself and then let go and then just lighten up. You don't want to be constantly having it thrown in your face because that's a lot and that's exhausting. So, anyways, I thought this would be probably the best kind of format for a therapy for dissociative identity disorder or dissociative amnesia that has a medication component, because in my head, if everything goes right with my project, a medication should be unsuppressing the sharp wave ripples, et cetera, unsuppressing them so that things are encoding. So yeah, that means that you're going to have things encoding and that's going to be intense. So anyways, so I think it would be specialized treatment process. I think that it would have also a talk therapy component. It might be similar to the format in EMDR or something like that. Both EMDR and psychedelic treatment sort of for PTSD and things like that. You take the medication for
EMDR, you're doing the eye movements with a therapist who's talking you through everything, and you're speaking to them. With the psychedelics in a medical context, which is this is still very new. This is not like wide. I actually even tried to join a clinical trial for this and I was not accepted, but it is really, really new that people are trying to do this sort of psychedelic treatment for PTSD and things like that. Usually you're not just taking the psychedelic in your house. You're taking it with a therapist and the therapist is talking you through everything so that they make sure everything's okay and that you're like untying all the little knots in your mind, right? So that's how I don't know because I don't haven't gotten there yet what a medication for this would look like, but I imagine that at least you'd have to meet really regularly with a therapist to be discussing anything that's getting encoded because it can be probably intense. Or you would take the medication there. I don't know how it would go. I don't know how effective it would be because there's zero medical clinical trials for this because this is research I'm doing right now. So it's not existing yet. But this is just me thinking about my experience and what I think it would look like. So I think there would have to be therapists trained specifically for this kind of process. Like they would have to be trained to deal with the unsuppressing and with talking people through recovered memories. That would also involve getting more research about recovered memories. So I'm going to go into that more. So, yeah, so I don't think that people should be, I might be wrong about my own idea because I'm still doing it and it's not done, but I don't think that it would, I don't envision it as the kind of medication that you would take like an SSRI, but I might be wrong on that. I just think that I imagine from what I've read, particularly, I'm thinking about dissociative identity disorder and the experiences that I've read, the case studies and things with people. I don't think that that's something that you want to be constantly removing because there's a reason that people develop those protective mechanisms in the first place, and that was to protect them from the sort of intense prolonged trauma that they dealt with that takes a very long time to deal with. It is not an easy or fast process, so there's probably a lot to come up. So I don't think you'd want to be constantly removing those protective mechanisms because ironically, even though it seems on the surface like you're not functioning well enough, it's actually helping you to function in your day-to-day life to have that disorder because it's protecting you from maybe it's not a very effective protection all the time because it means you're coming up in a fragmented way, but it's your mind's way of trying to protect you. So I don't think you want to be always stripping yourself of that protective component because there's a reality to it. So that's why I don't think it would be a medication that you would be always taking. I think it would be something you take in short bursts. And the thing is that the kind of people that I think would be eligible for this treatment, because I want to validate that there is some true, I mean, I don't agree with the fantasy model at all, but that is not to say that some people don't confuse memories or don't have false memories or et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't mean that we should completely invalidate people's recovered memories at all because that's real. That's true. There's research to back that. But it does mean that you have to give people a good baseline for them to understand how to navigate their condition because the thing is that if people this is the thing is that I think that sometimes what bothers me about that line of thinking from the fantasy model is that even though people can sometimes make mistakes about their own memories, you also don't leave enough room when I feel like when you put it on this kind of dichotomy of either everyone's falsifying things or recovered memories are real, et cetera, you don't leave a little bit of space for error and for confusion and for the messiness of the process. And that I think that that's part of the process of learning how like I think for me, even speaking on my own experience, just recovering a memory in the first place and then realizing that like oh my god there's things I don't understand about myself, that's really terrifying and that's something that there it takes a lot of unpacking to think oh my god like there's something here that I don't know, and it's something you have to learn to sit with it, and it took me a lot of learning to be like hey, you don't need to pry into it. You don't need to figure it out. Like it's okay and just keep going with your life. And it's not, if you feel good, don't worry about it. I think that it's very natural, I think, for people to feel like they want to start prying and they want to start putting dots together, putting fragments together and trying to figure themselves out because it's really distressing to be in a situation where you feel like, oh, whoa, I just realized that I'm not understanding 100% of the picture of myself. And I think that's normal. I think that's valid. That's a valid part of the process. And I think there's some space to say, even though recovered memories are real and people are having a real experience, sometimes people might confuse things or people might connect the wrong dots, not because they're fantasy prone, they're bad, but because it's really, that's just a big concept, right? I think we don't even have enough research to explain it to people well. And that's partly because we've stigmatized it through this kind of line of thinking. But I think that we need more information to explain to people what's happening to them so they can put the dots together better within themselves and understand, like, okay, oh, if there's not really a treatment method, or if there's not really a really clean way of explaining to people how to deal with recovered memories, I think it's natural for people to want to start to figure it out, put dots together, and then you know what I'm saying? So I think that it's not about telling people that they are false, that they're fantasizing, because that's just not true. That is scientifically just not true. It is real. And, I look at my project when I'm done, go read the citations, whatever. You can read some of the research that I did, but it's just not true. But there has to be some okayness with giving people a little bit of room to learn to re-navigate your head, So I think that that's really important to keep in mind. But anyways, I think that even so, what I'm gonna say is that the kind of people that I think would be eligible for this, you'd have to rule out first all other potential diagnoses. Okay, so you can't just go, oh, someone's experienced dissociation straight into the therapy, right? You have to be like, yes, you are, like, through extensive sort of diagnosis, I can see that yes, you are experiencing dissociative amnesia, some kind of trauma, you're experiencing dissociative identity disorder, so you would be a good match for this because you don't want to throw people in a situation. Yes, that's valid from the fantasy model. You do not want to throw people in a situation where they are looking for memories. So I think that is something to be sensitive about. It's not just, oh, it's completely invalid. I don't think the idea that all people with these disorders are fantasy prone, that's just simply, again, not true. There's not backing for that. They're not all just fantasy prone individuals. These are real disorders. But that doesn't mean people can't also get confused or get led astray, which is of the basis as to why people started to create the fantasy model in the first place. Sometimes people do get confused or they do get it wrong. So, anyways, that's why. Okay, so back to that. So, I think you'd have to have some kind of actual medical diagnosis for dissociative identity disorder, dissociative amnesia, dissociative disorder not otherwise specified. This would involve also making sure that people across the board are more educated on dissociative disorders so that they can spot them well, because I think it can be really extremely difficult for people to get a lot of these diagnoses. And I'm going to be honest, I think that a lot of people in psychiatry and psychology are not educated enough on the mechanics of dissociation, and I think that's partly the reason. And there's also, again, a lot of misconceptions about this disorder. And again, the fantasy model is extremely widely spread, even though it is not well backed. And so a lot of people don't actually believe in things like dissociative identity disorder. This isn't this, I'm getting this literally straight from research papers. This is in research. There's plenty of people who are not very trauma informed, who are not very informed in dissociation. We would benefit from people getting more training so that more people can be better diagnosed, so then we can lead people into therapies like these once they exist. Me speaking in completely hypotheticals, okay? But anyways, maybe some forms of PTSD would be a good fit. People with dissociative sort of symptoms, they might not. I don't know if I wouldn't say the medication has to be 100% about recovered memories. I just think that it probably would have a potential to bring out people's repressed memories if there are any. So that's one thing. And then probably some other disorders could benefit, like borderline personality disorder. I think just situations where people have dissociative symptoms and trauma. So that's how I imagined a treatment for dissociative disorder. So now, with all that in mind, I'm going to start to put into my bibliography some of the texts I read so you can see. And we're going to start to delve into some topics that I learned. Okay, let's see the last things that I put on here because I don't even remember. Yeah, I read this really interesting one. I might start putting a little bit of bullet notes in here about some of these, even though like I don't think I'm gonna put all of the bullet notes because that's a bit of an intense and long process for me that I need to do. But I did read this really interesting one that was really like pointing it to me that like yes, keep going down this, which was this one about how people have linked acetylcholine with consciousness, with consciousness, and I think that's probably showing me that that's gonna be my neurotransmitter. Okay, I have some great ones that I'm also focusing on right now. I'm reading like a cluster of information about this acetylcholine in rats and just stress. It's so good that we have all these biological studies already done about acetylcholine and things. I've been just amazed. I don't know, like there's a lot of cool information out. I've seen some people say that they think that neural networks are going to be really good because they basically, I don't know, we won't have to test on rats as much anymore or animals. You know, people test on monkeys and stuff. I do feel really bad for the animals, to be honest. Like, I read one that I'm gonna add here. It wasn't this one, it was another one, but it was about acetylcholine expression after prolonged stress. And my God, the poor rats, they were like they had basically were making the rats like swim really long and like they put them in like stressful situations so that they could see what happens in prolonged stress. It's really hard because I feel awful, awful for the rats. um really awful for the rats and just all that it's not always usually they're not always like putting them under these stressful conditions or something in studies where they look at rats like sometimes it's just normal stuff like making them go through a maze or something but sometimes it is I'm like oh man that's really at the same time it's just really hard to like understand what to do because even though we are going to have neural networks and they probably are going to get really advanced and really good and we're probably going to be able on some level to move away from animals and things but at the same time you kind of do want to make sure that everything is still getting kind of backed up on a biological scale so that's the hard part like you don't I don't know it's like maybe it would the computer logic is leading you to that but maybe if you look at it in a brain like it's not necessarily doing that but I do think it's good that we won't maybe have to do all these things as much but especially I think it's hard for particularly for something chemical like this even though it's really cool that we can model it in a computer it's like I do kind of see the benefit still in a biological like backing for something so I don't know it's kind of hard because I just do feel awful for the rats though and then this is oh my gosh it's so sad I'm gonna say it because it's science and it's in the text but basically at the end of the rats going through this intense swimming and stuff, they microwave the rats to kill them. My God. I don't know why that is. I to be honest, because I'm not a biology person. Like, is it because it does that like make sure that the chemicals stay there? Is it the more ethical way to kill an animal? I don't even understand, but for me, as a spiritual person, I just think like what are the I don't know, just the idea of your whole life is just you like getting in like this intense stress and then getting killed in a microwave is I don't know, especially because rats, they're the reason that we use rats and monkeys and stuff is because they're very similar to us and they're very intelligent, so it's really sad to think honestly that they are getting forced through these conditions. I know that probably scientists try to do that in the most ethical way. I know that probably the scientists that work with these rats, it's like you gotta do it. I mean, it sucks. It sucks, but it's like I know it's for the greater good. So I'm not even. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like we kind of do still have to do biological stuff. If not, like you can't get like medications and stuff made for people who are really suffering. But I just struggle to think of the rats. I just think of them like swimming around, and I'm like no, or like getting electrocuted and stuff. I'm like free them, poor little rats. Like they're just trying to live their life, but anyways, just really. But anyways, I think what I'm actually definitely like I've already for the longest time been planning on saying this in my actual research paper, but I think the cool overlap here with the neural network is that the really difficult part about studying something like dissociative identity disorder, particularly with dissociative identity disorder, I think it's so or dissociative amnesia and things like that. Oh, you can really actually you can kind of test dissociative amnesia well in a rat, but I would say, I mean, not maybe not dissociative amnesia, but just generalized amnesia or something. I think you can kind of study that because you're like you can see did they completely forget how to move through a maze or something like that. But um, it's really hard with dissociative identity disorder because rats don't really. I mean, maybe they do and we don't know it, but do they have a sense of self? It's really hard to say. And do they like? It's hard to. You can't a rat can't have multiple senses of selves like maybe they do somehow. I don't know, that'd be pretty wild to think about, but I think dissociative identity disorder is so interesting to me because it's such a human condition, like it's so centered around our experience of being a human and the sort of ways that can be disrupted, and also our ability to sort of dictate a narrative about ourselves and to feel a cohesive sense of self. It's so linked to consciousness in just every possible way. Or I don't know if it, or just not maybe not even consciousness, but just subjective experience is more like it. So the cool thing about doing a neural network is that you can't, it's a lot of the experiments that you could run for dissociative identity disorder are just not ethical to run on humans. Like putting someone through it, like it's just really hard to test for just trauma related things in humans. Like you can do workarounds to get as close as you can to make as good predictions as you can, but it's truly difficult, I think, to get like a really good experiment that's gonna give you something related to trauma, yeah, it's just a bit hard also because people with dissociative identity disorder usually have such intense trauma that it's really tough to think about triggering that trauma. People have done really interesting studies, for example, where they had people, I read one in this exact text that I'm finally, it was 40 pages long, so it took me a long time, but that I'm finally putting in here. But it was in one of the ways that they tested was they had people with dissociative identity disorder read back narratives that they had written of their own trauma. And the more neutral, like the ANP alter, so the one that's sort of more dissociated from the trauma so that I can move through and say, when it read, the person in that alter state read that narrative of their trauma back, they didn't feel anything about it. But when they read it in the alter state that actually had contained the memories of the trauma or was more centered around that traumatic experience, their brain was like going off with all these different trauma related experiences, if I'm remembering it 100% right. So that's one way that you can test something like dissociative identity disorder. But at the same time, I think it's just really hard. And so if we can get a computer to be able to give a narrative of itself, that would be really special because it would mean that we are basically able to start doing more research on that narrative function element that it's just really impossible. And I'm talking about all this in my paper for sure, but it's just really hard to do research on this specific overlap in psychology. So that's what I think is really special because you can ask it like about its sense of self. You can't ask a rat about its sense of self because I don't know if a rat even really has a sense of self. So honestly, I think reflecting on my project, that's probably actually going to be one of the most special parts of the project itself, I think, which is funny because I've been really nervous for my methods section and just being like kind of worried that I'm going to make sure that everything's going to be good. But I think that's actually probably going to be one of the more important parts of my project is that we can if I can build like a valid enough representation of what a dissociated mind is like. It's like having a human you can test on, but like you can run experiments a bit more ethically than trying to traumatize a person that already is traumatized. So anyways, okay, this is everything that I read just now. Let me make sure this is okay. Yeah, this is still, oh wait, this is not in the right section. It is not coded right. This is not coded right. I put it in twice. I feel like my chat GPT just across the board has been really finicky, like on every like on my phone, on my everything. Review. This is dissociation related. Where do we put that? The dissociation debate, that's pink. Okay, here we go. I'm a little bit, again, I'm pretty new to research, so the thing I don't know if okay, once I have all this information, I'm like, do I write everything first? Like, do I write like my intro and stuff with all the information that I have so I can have like a solid baseline? Or do I jump into my experiment and then put everything together? I'm a research assistant right now, so I've been trying to like kind of compare what we're doing in my research study at the moment to what I'm doing to see if I can get a hint, to be honest, because I don't really know, but I've been a bit confused. So, like I said, so for my research study that I'm working on right now, I'm working with two other people, and we all basically collected all of the experiment data first, and then I should actually ask my fellow research assistants because they are writing papers. They are master's students, so they're writing papers on what we're doing. And so now we like collected all the information, so now they're writing their papers, but maybe they'd already written, I'm guessing they've probably already written their intro sections and turned them in somewhere because they're being guided through the process by like actual advisors and stuff like, like through their program. So they would probably know better than me. I might ask them discreetly, like, so did you do your intro before? What did you do? Because I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing next now that I have all this information. I've really been I've been hesitant to tell people that I don't know, like to be like, I'm working on research, like look at it or stuff like that. I haven't because I feel a bit self-conscious and just I don't know. I've also just it feels like it's in such a little vulnerable place and I'm nervous about I don't know. I don't know. It's just I feel a little bit like protective of my project or a little bit nervous to tell people that I'm still working on this, because I also applied for PhD program. I asked some people to like look over my stuff and I didn't get in. Um and it wasn't I think I feel like I don't want to waste people's time more by like asking them to look it over or stuff, or it's like kind of like girl get a life and stop working on this a little bit, so I don't know. I've just been a little bit like what I don't know what to do. I feel a little bit nervous about asking people to like I don't know. I don't even know. But anyways, that's okay. I think this is like a weird overlap because okay, I understand read 60 plus text. That's real. But like what do I do now? Let's ask ChatGPT. Let's see if ChatGPT. Oh wait, this isn't okay. If my experimental design is finalized, clarify theoretical foundation rationale, intro, then methods and I don't think they're understanding me. Sometimes when I ask things in this, I accidentally ask things sometimes in citation list creation instead of my Shayla, my favorite tab on my ChatGPT receptive field explained, which has now zero to do with my project and was just me trying to understand surfing uncertainty. But the name just feels right, so I've never changed it. But I feel like it gives me better answers because I feel like this tab knows that I'm working on my project and it like knows my project, so it's just a bit better at like explaining things to me. I'll give it more detail too. I obviously am not fully done with my lit review, but we're gonna pretend that I am so that it faces it on that level of readiness. I don't know. For some reason, I don't know why. Like when I'm working on this myself, I'm like, yes, this is so iconic. I'm doing my project. I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm having fun and I'm like, this is so cool. But when it comes to actually telling people that I'm doing this, I'm like, I don't even know. They're gonna hate it. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I just feel self-conscious. Um, it just feels a little lame. Like, why are you still doing this? Okay, so I should run a basic version of my experiment. Helps you avoid writing an introduction to your experiment that needs to name. Okay, that's actually really, really. I was actually thinking that because that's kind of how we've done our research in my current research lab, from what I'm gathering. But the thing is, I didn't see behind the scenes of like my fellow research assistants, so I don't know what they're doing. But that's what I was thinking. I was like, we kind of got all the data first, and some of them are even some of the research assistants that I'm working with are even still changing up their research question a bit. So you would think that would change up their intro section. So I don't think they've written it yet. That's actually good because even though I'm really enjoying the reading, I'm on text like 30 something and I'm starting to get a little bit fatigued of like just information overload and the idea of jumping straight into writing an introduction section for this just kind of exhausts me. So, but it was necessary for me to do it like this because I needed to make sure that my experiment was going to run well. Okay, so that's text 34 now. It's actually been kind of fun to do my own experiment right now. I feel like I got into the part of writing my experiment and like doing all this when my fellow research assistants were getting to the point of like our study was done and they were getting into writing their research. So it's kind of fun because I don't feel left out and I feel like I'm also doing my own experiment because I'm the only research assistant that's not a master's student right now. So yeah, I feel like they're so like intense right now and like we're actually finishing up coding and things so that one of my fellow research assistants can do her paper and it's so intense and I'm like I'm doing a paper too, so now we're all doing a paper which is kind of fun. Um like I'm getting FOMO, just kidding. I'm Who would get FOMO over writing a paper? Okay, so let's start to add some of the things that I was reading. I have my iPad out. We're gonna just, I'm just gonna take a second to bullet point some big themes and like words that I need to understand. These right here are terms that I'm seeing used a lot throughout my papers. I obviously know what acetylcholine is, but one that it's like an enzyme. I don't know 100%. I read this in the text, but as you can see, my understanding is limited right now, so I need to look it up. There's like an enzyme that makes the acetylcholine, like, I don't know, do stuff. I don't know. It's called acetylcholinesterase. I probably said that wrong, but yeah, so I need to understand all of these right here and also choline acetyltransferase. Okay, I just actually passed a spot just for those of you wondering why are they putting rats in the microwave like I was. Basically, in addition, the sacrificing of animals by use of the microwave, the procedure to destroy ACH enzymes has been used only in 2 studies. I don't fully understand why they want to destroy the ACH enzymes. I think I need to like understand that. Because why do you want to destroy it? But anyways, initial text here that I mean initial like terminology words that I need to learn. I'm gonna jump into my literature review document and put the notes in for this text because this text was very interesting. I've been reading some really important things. So wait, I'm actually not through all the notes yet, but we are taking a quick second because I forgot I was reading this whole text about ventral versus dorsal hippocampus. I was like, what am I looking at? I didn't even know there was these different parts. So let's ask. This is so embarrassing. I don't know why I'm feeling embarrassed right now. Like, how do I not even know this? But that's okay. Subfields of the hippocampus, cognitive and spatial memory, and the ventral hippocampus is involved in emotional regulation. I want to get like I want a visual of this. I don't truly understand what does this look like? Is what I don't get. I want like a picture asking the real questions here. I don't want ChatGPT to make the image. I feel such a guilt conscience about using too much ChatGPT. I think I'm actually okay. I'm gonna give it to myself. I think this is probably of all of the reasons that you could use ChatGPT. This is probably one of the most top 10 valid reasons to use ChatGPT. Like this is actually what AI was actually made to be for. It was not made for like it's fine for us to do this, but I mean, it wasn't necessarily made to like make us into pictures of Studio Ghibli. But I think it was probably like at least this is I think this is valid enough that I could ask it to give me an image. I've just had such a guilt complex about it. It's like, let me chill. Like, it's not really that bad for me to use it. I'm just so like, I want to be sustainable, but this is like an actual legitimately valid reason to use like a more extended amount of ChatGPT. AI is actually so important and so useful. I mean, it's actually obviously medically, it's so important, but I'm just like, I think people like really, the guilting, like, I don't know, people really guilt it up on social media about like ChatGPT or like AI because I do get it that some people use it like a lot for like things that are like you could search that on Google or it's like come on now. But and I know it's not necessarily the most sustainable. So I've been feeling guilty because people will guilt people like really bad for using too much of it online, but again, I'm gonna be honest. I think this is like pretty valid use. Like I think this is probably like not a bad use of it. So okay, this is the hippocampus. What is the EC? I don't even know. Ventral, posterior, anterior. I'm not gonna lie, this didn't really explain anything to me. I'm looking at this and just being like, what does this even mean? Okay, is this the hippocampus? And there's like the ventral. This is, I feel embarrassed to do this project and I don't even understand. Like, I'm not like a neuroscience expert, but how could I be if I didn't get into any of the programs? Let's ask ourselves that question, right? Anyways, nobody wants to let me into the program. What am I gonna do? I never hear anybody talking about the CA2, which is probably because it has nothing to do with anything that I'm learning about. But what does the CA2 do? Couldn't tell you. I know nothing. Again, my knowledge is so niche. Like it's so specific and niche, and it's like I feel like I'm just learning what I need to learn for my answer. Like I don't know like a I don't I know I have like an overall view, like sort of understanding, but I don't know like really like things that I should probably know. So many things I'd like to learn. How does this work? Is it like is it sending I mean, I have a vague understanding, but like it's this like physically, how does it work? How is it sending something through this? Questions I will ask ChatGPT later. Again, look at the things that I search on here. Most of them are really like really important to what I'm doing. Recently, sometimes I will have a niche question. I got really, really cute new shoes at the thrift store recently, and I didn't know what to do because literally the first day I wore them, this stupid berry fell on my shoe and stained it day one. And I was so mad. I was like, I literally just put them on. Like, why does God hate me? And so then I washed it when I got home, and it took some of the dye out of the front. So I had to. This is more important than even my project. Is me looking cute and having cute shoes. So I took a picture of my shoe and gave it to ChatGPT and was like, what dye do I like? What kind of color dye would match my shoe so that I can dye it again? But thank you, ChatGPT. It did give me examples, so I have to go on Amazon later and get that. But yeah, I usually ask it for some help on stuff I'm doing um for work. But you can see everything here is pretty much psychology related because yeah, I don't know. I asked it what the difference between a delusion and a psychotic episode is. Which I know sounds random because you're like that you can kind of see like the difference, but I was like, where's the line drawn? Because I've been really interested in OCD versus psychosis. Again, if you have no idea what I'm talking like I know it seems like those are completely different disorders, but to me, there's a little bit of a space in the middle where it I think there's so many these are things I've been thinking about as I walk around. There's so many expressions of OCD, and I know it's extremely different. That's why I was asking it, but I think some things are very like there's a little bit of like an overlap in the ways that people think, I think. Because for example, like I know that the thing is that you have cognitive dissonance towards what you are caring about, like and this is me coming from me who actually got again, I didn't have a very good psychiatrist. So she didn't fully diagnose me, and maybe she just didn't think I fully had it, but I did get diagnosed with unspecified compulsive disorder. So trust me, I got a little bit of a I got some experience up here, which is why I was even asking in the first place. But I'm like, sometimes I feel like the thought processes really start to border on something very similar. And even people in my life that I know that have what I would diagnose them as probably pretty severe PTSD, sometimes it gets really slippery to the point where I'm like, it's somewhere in that. Just I feel like the overlap and the similarities between like schizoaffective disorder and OC and some more like severe OCD. Sometimes I feel like they can be a little bit like similar, the experience. I don't know, again, coming from my even my own experience where I've had some pretty complex compulsions that were really difficult when I was going through some like really, really traumatic periods. And I don't know, there was like a muddle. There was like a little muddle there when I was going through a really bad traumatic period. So that's why I've been trying to like unconnect it and then reconnect it. Like what is I feel like there's something there. So that's why I was asking what is the difference between a delusion and a psychotic episode? Like if you have a delusion, does that necessarily mean you have a psychotic episode? I'm really excited because I'm about this is taking forever. I'm really excited because I'm about to go in to get my master's in psychology from UCL. I'm very excited. I'm already feeling very proud. But Yeah, so I'm gonna have my master's soon, and I'm really hyped because these are questions that I'm dying to ask, and just I'm excited to have a better. I didn't study psychology in undergrad either. I just have a lot of lived experience. I've read a lot about psychology, but I don't even have like academic experience in psychology, so I'm truly excited to have that backing. So, yeah. Okay, I guess we're gonna let it do its thing. I'm gonna keep adding.
Okay, I'm still in the afterglow of going to see Carmen and just like thinking about the opera all day today. So we're gonna have a brief intermission. That was Act One. So we're gonna have an intermission because I'm horribly thirsty right now. It's so hot in my room and I need to charge my iPad. So see you in a bit. Also, do you hear that sound like running in the background of my video? That's my laptop overheating. So I think my laptop needs she needs a second. Okay, I'm back, and this time I have a trolley big burger because I had to go to the grocery store to get my cat food. So not sponsored, I already ate half of it. These remind me of, the Krabby Patties that we used to eat when we were kids, and they were like fake Krabby Patties and they were gummies like this. What happened to those? I don't know, but I'm addicted to these, and I always get them when I go to the store. Like I can't help it. We got cheese. We got tomato. Oh, where tomato. We got bread. I already ate the patty and the lettuce. They never they never gave me the image. So I just asked again and it said, "Here's the label diagram. Do you see the diagram? Where is it?" Well, it's not that important anyways. I just kind of wanted to see it, but it's okay. But now I know that it doesn't really matter. Like the ventral dorsal distinction doesn't really matter. I can, I guess, just ignore that. You know where I want to go back to again so bad? Iceland. I went to Iceland one time. The first time I visited London, actually, I did a long layover in Iceland and just stayed at a hostel because I could. But by then I was like out of money, so I didn't actually go do any real excursions except that I went to one of those like Blue Lagoon type places, but it wasn't Blue Lagoon. It was a different one. So I went in summer and it was like one of those like infinity pool kind of situation. It was literally like I had the time. I went by myself. I do a lot of things by myself, actually. I'm not one of those people that is like nervous about being by myself. I would just be doing anything. So I was there and people were in relationships and like having the time of their life. I'm not gonna lie, I was jealous. I was like, I will be back one day with the love of my life, but I was like just there on my own and I had a little drink. It had like a little bar. It was so fun. But anyways, I want to go back to Iceland so bad. Talking about cold stress, because I'm writing about cold stress, and they had a cold pool there where you could dip yourself into very cold water. It wasn't torture in that situation, but it was still. Anyways, we're gonna have one ADHD moment because I think I'm so focused, and I'm like, I should allow myself one ADHD moment for the sake of showing you guys. But first of all, if you need to go to Iceland if you haven't been, it is not it's very expensive to eat there. The food is so overpriced because poor them, it's not their fault. They live on like this like rock, so people there like it costs crazy amounts to import food there. So that was the biggest expense, but other than that, it was a pretty chill trip. Like I said, I didn't have money to go like any like to do cool stuff and like go out of the central city. I was in
How do you go about pronouncing this name? Reykjavik.
okay, Reykjavik. I was in Reykjavik and it was so fun, but I am dying to go back. I think about Iceland like so much, actually, and I want to go hiking and do more stuff, but I always think of this video. This was the ADHD moment I meant to have. Okay, I literally had to airdrop it to myself. This is so funny. Hold on. Did a lot of shit just to live this here lifestyle. Came straight from the bottom to the top, my lifestyle. Living life like a beginner, but this is only beginning. On the top of the map, busting out cotton, niggas still beginning. Like, okay, the Icelandic boys are really just okay. Anyways, but that made me want to go back to Iceland so bad. And I just in general want to go back there. But anyways, okay. Okay, back to work, back to work. That was my one ADHD moment that I got. Every time I see them talking about monkeys, like doing experiment on monkeys, I think of Amy from The Big Bang Theory, which I'm watching right now. And I've just been watching it for like a few months, and she's always doing the experiments on the monkeys. And it's so funny to see it now that I'm like doing this project. Just like, yeah, she's so real. This classification. I want to say that I'm a Penny, but I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm an Amy. A little bit sometimes. I feel like Bernadette is kind of the forgotten one because at the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like Bernadette she's like the most normal one of everybody. I think I feel like she's got her life together. Like she's got her money, she's married. I don't know, like I feel like just Bernadette just has her life together in a way that Amy and Penny do not. So I feel like she's just not as focused on it enough. I feel like you rarely see Bernadette in a shenanigan like ever. Like she's never, very, very rarely is she like having some kind of actual genuine issue. The only time I remember her having like an issue was I just watched the episode. Oh, wait a minute. I watched the episode recently where they were having like this big scavenger hunt, and she was like insane and got like really aggressive. That was the I feel like I very rarely see her having like a massive issue because she just has her life together like that. Like that's just her. I think does she have her PhD? I don't think she does. Because I think the only one who doesn't have their PhD is what's his name again? The one with the bowl cut. Wallowitz. What is his first name? I forget it for some reason. I wish they would just outright say that what is his name? Rajesh, bisexual, because I feel like I watch it and I'm like, this is a bisexual man, but they just won't say it. I know they probably like that's the joke is he's supposed to be effeminate, but I really just feel like he's bisexual. Like, I mean, I think we're supposed to. I don't know. They kind of like toe around him being like metrosexual, I guess is the term people would use. I'm just gonna go out there and say I feel like he's just straight up bisexual. That's my reading, my interpretation. That in like my dream world, they would just go right out and call him that. I know he's supposed to be like, oh, he's straight, but it's kind of funny that he's like kind of gay. I feel like Wallowitz, that's the case for him. I feel like he's straight, but he's just kind of like, he's got his moments. I'm just gonna call him by their last names. I feel like Kuthra Polly is like, to me, he's bi male representation. I don't know, like representation. To me, he's bisexual. I don't know. I just want him to be. It's beyond the point of he's like straight, I don't know. Now, my girl Amy, I'm sorry. I think everybody knows this, but she needs to drop Sheldon. Like it saddens me. It actually saddens me to see her with Sheldon so much sometimes because she just deserves so much better. I actually watched Young Sheldon first, so I think that kind of softened my perception of Sheldon. I think if I'd watched Big Bang Theory but hadn't watched Young Sheldon, I think I wouldn't have liked it because I would have hated Sheldon so much. But I feel like I went into it sympathetic to him because I saw young Sheldon. I feel like Sheldon getting like teasing Wallowitz for being an engineer, that's the thing that irks me. And I don't even care because I'm not an engineer and I don't think I even have any friends who are urgent engineers, but I just like when I don't know, the put downs, I don't know. Obviously like not in a deep way because it's a show, but in like a funny way, I feel like I just get so annoyed. I'm like, leave him alone. Like, I don't know. That sounds harder. Honestly, it sounds really hard to be an engineer. Not that I would know, but it just sounds really difficult. Which is the joke, okay? That's obviously the joke. I'm just saying I like it or like I feel like of all of Sheldon's quirks, because he has so many like little like jerky things that he does, that one really like irks me. Not at the show, but just at Sheldon. Like, what is wrong with you? Actually, Koothrappali is I would say of all of the guys, he's my favorite. I like all of them a lot. And honestly, like I feel like I like the characters a lot, but I feel like I have a soft spot for Koothrappali, maybe because I'm have decided that he's bi, and so I like that in him, and like but it's not even that. I don't even care, but I feel like he's just so sweet, and he has such a like
yeah, I feel like he's really just such a sweetheart, and I don't know. He deserves so much better. And I thought it was really sweet that he couldn't speak to women. I don't know. I just thought it was like that's a really it's funny, but I thought it was cute of him as a character. And Wallowitz is growing on me, but I don't really like him that much. I feel like he's here and there for me. But he grew on me after he married Bernadette. I severely disliked him when he was just being like weird and like creepy. Leonard, I'm truly back and forth on him. That's so funny. I just remembered, okay, Leonard's mom being a psychologist. She's so funny. I love her character too. And just I feel like I'm like, am I gonna be her in the future? I fear for myself. But if you haven't seen the show, she's this psychologist, but she's awful. She's horrible. She's always like she messes up Leonard so bad because she was like always studying him when he was young and like writing these awful embarrassing books about him and like everything that he did, and she's just absolutely the worst, but she's so funny. But yeah, but Leonard, he sometimes he gets on my nerves a little bit, but I don't know like why exactly. I think it's a little bit sometimes how he interacts with I don't know, he's nice to Penny, but I don't know, I just feel like he has these little moments where he just seems a little bit I don't know, he has these little weird pathetic moments and but they kind of like I don't know, I sometimes they just I'm not like super into it. I don't know. Leonard like I like him on one hand, on the other hand he kind of just annoys me. I don't know. But I actually do really like Leonard. I like his vibe. Um why am I trying to be nice like they're real people? I don't know, but I just feel kind of bad. Maybe I'm like attached to the characters. I'm being so ineffective with how I write these notes, but I don't have the energy to really think and like synthesize. So I'm just like kind of copying them from here. I love a short king though. I feel like I appreciate Leonard's short king energy, you know? I'm not like 6 feet tall. I'm 5'8", so I'm a little bit on the tall side for a girl, and I don't know. I feel like most of the guys that I've liked ever since I was younger, like they happen to be either my height or shorter. So I don't know. I liked seeing Leonard get his moment. It's not really on purpose that I don't know. I just feel like that ends up happening because I'm tall. Like that's fine. So I relate to Penny on that end, you know? It's like we can both appreciate a short king. The thing is, okay, I'm not trying to discriminate against tall men. I know this is like a really unpopular opinion. I genuinely have zero height preference. I don't care like at all. But sometimes I think because I've been taller than a lot of the guys I've liked like my whole life, I almost I feel almost unnerved when like I'm with a guy much taller than me. It just feels kind of like weird. Like what the heck? As for girls, I don't care. I don't think anybody cares, to be honest with you. Girls, like we have it, yeah. We also kind of have it good just across the board because I feel like I don't know any height is cool. Like, I don't know, I feel like people just have their thing, but I used to want to be short so bad actually when I was younger. Up until I was like 19, I wanted to be short. I was like, please God, why can't I be 5'6"? I kind of like being with guys around my height when I do like I'm not even I'm acting like I'm like I barely like I don't think I've gone on a date in like a really long time. And the last date I went on wasn't even with a guy. But anyways, I haven't gone on a date with a guy. I don't even know. I haven't gone on really any dates. But anyways, I don't know why I'm acting like I'm like got this crazy preference, but I will say for the guys that I've liked, usually I like when people are around my height because then I feel like we can look each other in the eye. I don't like having to bend my head up. I don't know. I know that's so picky, but I feel like it's like a I like feeling like we're like equals and we're like on the same level and I'm like looking at you in the face. I don't know how to put it. So most of the guys I've liked have been like 5'7" to like 5'10", maybe max. Not that I haven't liked guys taller than that, but that's just been I don't know. Also, I haven't even been around that many tall men. I don't know. Do they exist? Where are they? But I do think they chose, I don't know, maybe it wasn't on purpose, but I feel like they chose Leonard to be short on purpose to like bring out because he's got this really insecure streak to him. Like that's his whole thing. I think like in the beginning he feels like all pathetic because he can't get a girl. So I think they obviously I feel like they probably did that on purpose to make him like bring out just the insecurity that he probably feels with Penny, but I don't know. Okay, we're gonna dig into this one. I wanted to get both texts in here in this video, but I truly don't know if it's really not that many notes that I took on the other one. We'll go into this one a little bit so I have more of a basis for the next one, because the next one is short, and then we'll end the video because I'm talking too much and it's 1:20 in the morning. But this one, I want to go into some of the things that I read, because first of all, let's get our definitions in here. Okay, so we're gonna write that each is a part. We're gonna write parts of the. Okay, here we have the cholinergic system. The cholinergic system. Okay, acetylcholine. Acetylcholine. Not an intuitive like pronunciation at all to me, but whatever. We already know this one, but we're gonna write it again. I'm just gonna copy paste. It's too late at night to think. I'm gonna be honest. Okay, this one. So this is the enzyme that synthesizes this. So choline plus whatever this is, acetyl CoA. Okay. This added a lot of depth to the information we learned in another video, or that I spoke about in another video. It's funny because usually science really would intimidate me, but I don't know, I don't feel intimidated. Like I feel really interested, actually. So that's been kind of fun. It's just been fun seeing me get comfortable with like science too. Like just be like, oh, this is cool. This is what we're doing now. So are you guys having a good day? That's good. Okay, what is the synaptic cleft? It is the tiny gap between two neurons where communication happens. Separates the presynaptic neuron, the one sending signal, from the postsynaptic neuron. I'm tired. This is a lot. These neurotransmitters diffuse across the cleft and bind to receptors. Huh? Okay. Let's like visualize the tiny gap between two neurons where communication happens. They're like chatting it up. It separates the presynaptic neuron, so the one sending the signal, from the postsynaptic neuron. So, okay, makes sense. When a neuron fires, it releases neurotransmitters. Okay, the neurons release the neurotransmitters into the gap, into the synaptic cleft. Okay, these neurotransmitters diffuse across the cleft and bind to receptors on the. I understand. Okay, that wasn't as hard as I thought. Okay, so they squirt out into the synaptic cleft, and then the neurotransmitters diffuse across the cleft and go all the way to the postsynaptic neuron, which makes a response happen. Okay, I understood that. Okay, this is going into what I asked ChatGPT like 2 days ago. So, no, yesterday. I feel like I do so much in a week that I feel like a lot of time has passed sometimes when it really hasn't passed that, like not that much time has actually passed. Okay, here we have the whole cholinergic system. That's cool. Let me show you what I learned the other day, which is going to be relevant right now. So let's go here. Class, let's go down to the bottom. To be sensitive sensor of glucocorticoids for the brain. No brain. Okay, so this is what we have here. So this study was about putting these rats through horrible, stressful conditions, and then seeing, I guess, how that affects the activity in the cholinergic system here by seeing how acetylcholine sort of interacts in different parts of the brain. So particularly the hypothalamus and the hippocampus, and the hippocampus is what I'm studying. There was a lot of different conclusions, or like a lot of different things were found that some of them seemed a bit contradictory. Okay, let's remind ourselves. So CHAT, let me just close this. CHAT enzyme, it combines choline and Neurons that express CHRT are cholinergic. Okay, this is why I wanted to go to what I was going to. So I asked it to explain what is an increased rate in acetylcholine turnover. Basically, so what it explained is that basically acetylcholine so what happens is that it's made in the neurons from choline and this other thing, I don't know how to say it. Basically, the acetylcholine is released into the synaptic cleft, and then it's broken down by this other thing that we learned. Now I understand this so much better, into these other things, acetate and choline. So basically, then the choline is taken back up into the neuron, and then it's used to synthesize more acetylcholine. So what this study is saying, though, okay, so there's a lot of different things at work here. So cold stress, so the mice being in, I guess, in the colds, resulted after 1 or 24 hours, there was a significant decrease in ACH, in the acetylcholine concentration in everything. But there was a significant increase of these other things. But for swimming, so that also led to a significant decrease at first. So when I was reading this, I was like, I'm scared because that's kind of seeming like it's going against what I thought. Because what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see if basically the acetylcholine is going to increase, because if when it's increased, it's basically stopping. It would stop the memories from encoding because there'd be too much. Oops. There could be other things at play here, and there were still things that seemed connected to what I was talking about. So this is what I thought was interesting. Reduced concentrations of acetylcholine may be primarily caused by an increased release. So there we go. And Myers et al. Found an increased release of acetylcholine in response to colds in the hypothalamus in monkeys, which isn't what I'm studying. But so here we go. At first, they basically increase. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT to actually give me like kind of explain this more thoroughly, given what I've asked it, because I want to understand. Because I'm getting a little bit lost in the terms. Like the choline, what does it do again? Oh, for some reason it just struck me acetylcholine because it has choline and then this thing, acetyl-CoA. Duh, come on now. Okay. And then the choline is taken back up into the neuron. Okay. So they're in the stressor, which relies on cholinergic signaling. The brain ramps up acetylcholine release to meet this demand. ACH release and breakdown. So it's broken down by that enzyme into this and this. The choline buildup is both a byproduct and a precursor needed to resynthesize. So basically, because there's a lot of free choline levels, that suggests there's a lot of ACH release and breakdown. So there is a lot, and then it's going to make more. So that actually is in line with what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, there we go, right? But then there's a decrease. It sucks because I'm so tired. Let me quickly put the notes for the other text in so that maybe we can see it in context. I'm a little bit, wait, we're going to stick with it for a second. I'm a little bit confused because why was then, okay, so the reduced concentration of ACH may be primarily caused by an increased release though, but why though? So there's just in general increased turnover of ACH. Why does then let's ask ChatGPT. I wish I was better right now and just thinking, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm really exhausted. So it's literally almost 2 in. There's significant increase of CHAT. Okay, I'm kind of answering my question myself, but there is an increase in the turnover rate. Not in that, I don't know. I've had such a long day while we're waiting for this to load. I had a meeting for my research assistant job, went to my nanny job, worked on my remote job, went and had a long dinner, came home. Now we're doing this. It's like so late. Okay, here. Why is there always a contradiction? Because there's an increase in turnover, there's less because it's breaking it down more and being released more frequently. Powerful demonstration of how acute stress, cholinergic surge. Okay, let's go into my other text. We're gonna contextualize it more. It's one of those things where I'm like, I'm so tired right now, but I feel like I'm gonna go to bed so satisfied if I can understand this. I think this is the most I've ever enjoyed doing a project because this is my first time doing an assignment where there's no deadline and there's no pressure. And so I work on it like every day and just enjoy myself like a lot. Again, I think having ADHD, I thought I was unfocused, because I don't know, but I think I just don't like having to do things I don't like and then having like intense pressure to do those things I don't like. I have like my own internal deadline, but nobody's like, if I don't get it done by the deadline, nobody's gonna do anything. Like, I'm just gonna be proud of myself for doing it anyways, and just keep doing it. So I think being an adult has helped though too, and feeling like the things I'm doing actually are like important now and not just random things, like even though I'm not going to get a grade for like, I don't know, my research study or something, it just means more to me. So I stayed up till really late the other day coding videos and stuff because like I feel like I want to do well. I don't even know, but I'm just having an easier time with adult life than I did with school life by like significant amounts. Also, I might have just like my frontal lobe might have developed a little bit, and that might be part of the reason why I'm having an easier time. But I just feel like my ADHD got significantly better in the last 2 years, like to the point where I can do this. And I still obviously have like symptoms in other areas of life that affect me, but it hasn't really affected my work anymore. Like I feel like I work really effectively because I just like psychology a lot. I feel like for kids with ADHD, it's so good to do a big, for me, I really enjoy just doing like a big self-led project. I think we should let neurodivergent kids like follow their interests more and just give them a little bit more control over their learning because I don't know, I think that it helps me a lot to be like I'm in control of my learning and I'm like led by my passion and my self-interest rather than I don't know. And also just something that's gonna be like you can see there's like purpose and value. Like, I don't know, projects that are gonna do something for the community or whatever. I just feel like that's a better way to go about honestly for all kind of every type of child. I think it's good for kids probably to see that they can make an impact on the world, like and that they are treated like human beings, not like they're in practice mode. Like they can have an impact and they can also like their ideas are valuable and stuff. I just think that as a kid, like before I understood my ADHD well, I probably like in a big project, I probably could have used like, interest and support in terms of like guiding me because I don't think I naturally as a kid, because you also just are a kid and you don't have like a very developed like brain yet. Like I don't think I would just be like, I'm gonna wake up and do this. I think you probably need still like the guidance, but I think it's good to let kids do things that you're learning useful skills. Look how many useful skills I learned doing this. And I know I'm an adult, but it's still like, my self-guided project that I'm like kind of learning to go along. But I just think we should let kids with ADHD just like kind of guide themselves a little bit more because I think they have a pretty good sense of things they care about and what they're interested in. And also like I guess not push the narrative that you need to be pushed to learn everything when you're like a kid or like a teenager. It's like I've never learned science like to this degree. I obviously I learned a bit of science in school, but I don't think that it's really like it's you know what I mean. Like I think that I'm learning a lot now, and it's like you don't need to be pushed to learn everything all like. I think that's why we have these really intense curriculums where kids are really intensely learning a lot of information all the time. But it's like you can learn when you're older too. I don't know. You don't need to learn everything you know what I mean? Like it's better to just teach kids to learn, I think. And to like the things that they do and follow their passions a little bit more, instead of being like, we have to shove all of the information that exists into your brain in like, I don't know, 12 years. Meanwhile, I think it would be so much more useful to be like, I'm going to let you make a community garden in your area, and you're going to learn business, you're going to learn math, you're going to learn how to budget, you're going to learn this, you're going to learn that, and like real useful skills, like, hands on. I feel like this is just the kind of stake or the kind of pressure that I actually like enjoy, like the pressure of making sure that my idea is going to be going well and that I get to where I need to get with it. It's like good pressure, it's like fun pressure of like get it right, rather than the pressure of your parents are going to be disappointed in you and your teachers are going to be disappointed in you, and like you're just going to hate yourself because you didn't turn your assignment in on time. I don't think you teach kids to be like good members of their community by doing that. And I think we need people to value being good members of their community a little bit more than just success, in a different context. I think that's why we are seeing what we're seeing in our society at the moment, is that we teach kids to value like numbers and things, in the later on, I feel like it becomes more like money or like approval from your boss, but it's like, how beautiful would it be if we could teach children to value adding like value and purpose to their community and seeing themselves as purposeful. And I've been watching these videos. I watched a video about how kids now are protesting in Roblox, and that the internet has become the space for children to express themselves politically. And we usually in the past would not see children as political that much. But they've just found this outlet for it. And the person was saying, I'm gonna link the video, but that too often we see kids as these sort of pre-citizens, but children are citizens, like they're citizens now. I've been really interested in the idea of childhood as being in a sort of marginalized space. I don't really know how to put it. There's people like I'm saying this because I've read people already talking about it. I'm not making it up, but it's really interesting to think about because even though it's necessary, you really don't have control over your situation, your life. If you don't like something that's happening to you, you can't just leave. Like people will just bring you back or force you into another situation you don't want. You know, kids don't have the control of, like over their body that adults have. Like they can't sign. Adults are the ones to sign off on something that happens to them medically, etc. I think a lot of kids hate school, to be honest. Like a lot of kids really don't like school. And I don't know, I think we should listen to them on that. And like we're just forcing them to go to this thing that they hate like 24/7. Not all kids hate school, but I think that some kids really vibe with the way that we learn in school, and a lot of kids really don't, and a lot of kids hate school. And we get older and we just sort of like, when we're younger, we're like, this sucks. And then we get older and we're like, well, that's how it is. But I just think we should give children more of a voice in their own experience. But I'm getting a bit tired, to be honest. This might have to continue into another section. This is like to be continued right now. Like I'm gonna pick up literally right where I left off on this next video, because this is kind of an important period here. But yeah, I'm just too tired now. But anyways, I'm gonna just get off this video right now. Okay, a bit unsatisfying because I had the connections there and I just didn't get to make them, but it's a really complex spot for me right now because I have a lot to learn and it's just complex anyways, and I've been working for like, I don't know, 3-4 hours now after a really long day, so I'm kind of really tired. And yeah, I just feel like I have a lot to process right now. So in the next video, we'll go into it more. I wish I'd gotten it to be more satisfying, but anyways, it was still fun to be like chatty today and make a chatty video about unnecessary things. But yeah, can you see I'm really exhausted? Okay, good night.